There was the last normal day, the last day that things were the way they were before they weren't anymore.
We kind of all rushed out of the house and said a quick goodbye. And, little did I know that would be the last time I hugged my mom.
He yells and tells me he's getting ready to go. He said, I'm okay. Just stay here. I'll be home in a few hours. We tell him bye and he leaves. That was the last time we ever saw him.
It's like the minute that helicopter hit the air, it just hit me what I was watching, because I knew he wasn't coming home and he knew he wasn't coming home.
For me, I took it more personally because I'm a nurse practitioner, and why can't I save him? I can help all these other people, and why can't I save him?
They're telling us that it was time, we needed to make a decision, we need to go ahead and just take him off the ventilator. And I was like, how do we know?
One thing I like to tell people is that if you lose somebody to COVID, your need to talk about the person you lost will outlast other people's desire to hear about it.
We make sure that our family members and loved ones' memories lived on. That's really important to me, is that people don't forget. I don't want to forget any of it.
So talk about them. Talk about them till people are sick of hearing about them. Because as long as you're still talking about them, they're never far away.
And the last thing that my mom said is, she said, when you get to heaven, we will look for each other.
Hello everyone, you're listening to For Those We Lost. I'm your host, Jennifer Sullivan. Thank you for being here. In today's episode, I'll be talking to Angee in Missouri. Angee lost her mom, Gloria, to COVID on February 17th, 2021. Angee not only feels the grief of losing her mom, but she also deeply feels the guilt of knowing that she brought the virus home to her mom. We talk a lot about grief and guilt in this episode. For context, we recorded this show on March 2nd, 2023. Angee mentions the Yellow Heart Memorial and how connecting with others has really helped her. We also talk briefly about the book Option B by Sheryl Sandberg. Those links are in the show notes below. Finally, there's a bit of up and down audio when Angee is speaking sometimes. I've done my best to edit it to be more even. And with that, I'd like to welcome Angee to the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you live in Missouri.
I do.
Okay. And today we are talking about your mom who passed away from COVID on February 17th, 2021.
Yes.
Okay. So what I like to do is I like to start in March of 2020. Okay. And let me ask a question first. Did you live near your mom?
She lived with me.
Oh, okay. So You guys were so close. Wow.
Very, very close. Yes.
Okay. So let's go back to March of 2020 and talk about how you first heard about COVID and what your mom was doing and the changes that you all made to how you navigated the world.
Well, we heard about it on the news, and she called me in the room, and she was like, had me come in and sit down and watch the news with her. And we were, of course, like everybody, didn't know, that it would end up being the way that it was. And she worked in a local grocery store to here. And she worked there for 20 years. And I, as time went on, um, my biggest fear was her getting it from work because she worked with the public. And so we just, and then they mandated masks and we started doing that and she was wearing them at work and um just I mean then the shutdown came and we didn't go anywhere but to she'd go to work and come home and I was like, well, if we have to get something from the grocery store, I'll just go get it because I wanted her to not be out in public as much as possible other than being at work, and I really didn't like her being at work, but she was a go-getter, so she wasn't going to not work. My sister and I tried to get her to retire for the longest time and she just wouldn't do it. So we thought we were scot-free because a whole year had went by, almost a year, and she hadn't got it. So we thought we were in the clear.
Yeah.
And my mom had always been relatively healthy. She had high blood pressure, but that was about it. So, but I mean, like I said, my biggest fear the entire pandemic, not that it's over, of course it's still going on, but was her getting it.
Yeah. Can I ask, at her work, did they have any set protocols? Did they take temperature checks? Did
Yes.
they
Yep.
require testing? Okay.
And then they started talking about the vaccine and she was like, oh, well, when that becomes available, I'm definitely getting it.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I would just rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Well, she never got the chance
Mm.
to get it.
Yeah. Looking at the date of when she passed away, I know my dad was 82 at the time and he got it on February 1st, which was the very first day that you could get a vaccine.
Yeah.
At least for the general populace, not people who like worked in hospitals or medical care and things like that who had
Right. So I found out later that like 2 or 3 days after she passed, I found this out from a young girl who worked with my mom and who was very, very close to my mom, that they came around at her job and were saying, anyone 65 and over can get the shot first. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. And what happened with you? Did your job transition to home or were you still working?
No. Well, at the time, the place I was working, I work for the same company now, but the location I was working at the time closed down because of COVID. So I was on unemployment for 5 months while this was going on. So I was at home. And like I said, we didn't really go anywhere. We were very secluded to our house. We were going stir crazy, but we were trying to be safe,
Yeah.
So we really didn't need to go anywhere. And one night I went out to dinner with a friend of mine and I brought it home to her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, why don't you talk about the story about that and what happened after that?
Well, January 27th of the evening of January 26th, I had, like I said, we hadn't really done anything. So I thought a friend of mine, he asked me to go to dinner with him just to catch up because I hadn't really seen anybody. And I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll just go. So I went out to dinner with him and sat and talked to him. And I came home that night and I was perfectly fine. And the morning of January 27th of 2020, 2021, sorry.
That's all right.
I came home and when I woke up, I was freezing cold, like when you have a fever. And I was like, oh, I must be getting a cold, So I like bundled up, went upstairs, made my coffee, did my morning routine. And within the hour, I was sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, I definitely have a fever. What's going on? I didn't automatically assume I had COVID. So I, my mom was home. It had to be, I don't know what day of the week that was, but she had to have been home that morning. So it was probably a day off for her. And I went in and I was like, Mom, I don't feel good. I think I'm getting a cold, but just to be safe, I'm going to go get a test just to rule it out. I really wasn't worried. Um, I went and got a rapid test done, left the place where I got the test, went and got gas, which was just down the street from where I got it. And they called me already. And she was like, your test came back positive. And my heart just dropped. And my eyes immediately went to my mom. She was in the passenger seat of my car. And I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And she was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I told her, and she was like, oh, honey, it's fine. She's like, I feel fine. It's okay. So, they're like, well, are you at home? I said, no. They're like, well, you need to get home. So, we went home and, we made a pit stop at the grocery store. My mom's like, well, you can't go in. So just write down what you want and I'll run it. So we went to the grocery store, went home. And by that night, I just felt like I had like the worst cold I've ever had in my life. I never got the cough, but I just felt very, very, very congested. Um, and I'm like, how are you feeling? I kept asking her, I'm like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And she's like, I feel fine. It's fine. And, so, before that evening was over, I was like, Mom, please go get a test done. Just go find out. So she went and got a rapid test done. It came back negative. So she's like, see, I told you, it's fine, you know. And by the next morning, she was coughing and coughing. And I'm like, oh no. And I mean, just like the cough kept getting, just as the day went on, it was just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And my mom was one of those people that you could walk by her when she was asleep and she'd wake up. She slept really light. Um, and my mom might have been 75, but she could eat like a 20-year-old. Like my mom loved food. So she wasn't eating. And she was coughing and she just wanted to stay in bed. That was very unlike my mom. She just lost her appetite completely and just wanted to sleep. And she was heavy sleeping, which was not like my mom. And she was, as every day went on, she kept getting worse. And she was like, no, I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not fine. I'm fine. Even though she was kind of out of it, she was adamant. She's like, I'm not going. So on the 5th day, I finally went in her room and I said, look, you're either going to go with me willingly or I'm calling the paramedics and they're going to come literally physically pick you up and make you go. But you're going. And by that time, she was so bad. And what we didn't know at the time is her oxygen levels were so low, she couldn't even hardly stand up.
Oh, yeah.
And so I helped her get in the shower. My mom never went anywhere without showering. Never anywhere. And my mom couldn't stand and refused to go to that hospital without taking a shower. So I helped her. I helped her get dressed and I helped her down the stairs to the car. And the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life was drive my mom up to that emergency room. And she had to get in a wheelchair because she couldn't walk in there. And wheel her in there and leave her there. Because they wouldn't let me go back with her. They were just like, sorry, you can't. My mom was so weak she couldn't even lift her head up to say goodbye. And I had to leave her there. And she was there for about 15 days. They wouldn't let me see her. The last phone call I got from my mom, she was terrified. And I'd never heard my mom act like that. She's the strongest woman I ever knew in my life. And she was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Please help me. Please help me. Just tell me what to do. And I tried not to cry on the phone with her because I tried to stay strong for her. And I'm like, Mom, you just have to do what they say. Just do what they say. They're trying to help you. Please do what they say. And then she was like, I need you to tell me what to do. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And then I don't know if we lost signal or what happened, or if she just hung up, or I don't know. That's the last time I heard my mom's voice, was that phone call.
So she was in the hospital for 15 days. She, um, I'm guessing that she had COVID pneumonia.
Yes.
Okay.
And they had her on regular oxygen at first. And of course, that wasn't enough. And I never knew what a BiPAP was until the day I went to say goodbye to her. And I saw it on her face, and it's the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. And the BiPAP started to not be enough. And since my mom was still able to communicate, they asked her, what do you want to do? Because the only thing we have left is to put you on the ventilator. That's it. And my mom said, nope, absolutely not. If I can't breathe on my own, I don't want something doing it for me. Absolutely not. They said, well, that's our only option at this point. This BiPAP's not giving you the oxygen you need. Like, they couldn't get her lungs to drain. Like, they were just almost completely full. And they asked her the morning of the 17th, her doctor came in. He was, I'm asking you one more time, Gloria. I'm asking you one more time. Are you sure you don't want to go on the vent? And she said, nope. And he called me and he's like, you need to get up here right now. And when I say right now, I mean right now. And I probably got there, it seemed like 5 minutes. I was up there. My best friend went with me. She was my best friend since we were little. And my mom helped raise her. She's like, you're not doing this by yourself. You're not going to go in there and say goodbye to your mom by yourself. They made us get in full PPE, and we went in there. And she saw me, and she reached for my hand, and she could see that I was already crying. And the last thing I heard out of her, she saw that I was crying and reached for me, and all I heard was, aw, because she saw me crying. Mm-hmm. And she, like, squeezed my hand with the other hand. She's trying to rip this mask off her face. She was just done. She was tired. She was tired. And they gave her morphine. Lots of morphine. I was like, you give her as much as you can give her. I don't want her to suffer at all. She suffered for 2 weeks now. It's not going to hurt her at this point. And they gave her morphine and they took it off. And it wasn't long after that. And she passed away.
Yeah. Was that the only time that you were allowed into the hospital? Did you ask?
Oh, yeah, I begged. Her nurses were amazing. And they were like, please let her come in. Just please let her see her. And they said, wouldn't let me. The hospital would not let me. I'm like, I just had COVID. I'm fine. It's not going to hurt me. Just let me be with my mom. Like, all she saw were people in full PPE. She never saw anyone's face. That's all she saw for 2 weeks, and she was all alone. And I replayed that phone call in my head of her calling me for the last time, just absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my mom. She was deaf in one ear and had trouble hearing in the other. And she read lips, is how she got by, especially later on in life. And she had Alzheimer's and was moved into a different facility. And it weighs on me that she had no idea what was going on and she couldn't hear anybody and couldn't see anybody's face.
Yeah.
I think that the physical touch and having somebody in the room who loves you and cares about you,
Right.
yeah.
I told her nurses, I was like, I would have slept on the tile floor. I don't care. Just let me be with my mom. And they advocated for me. They wanted me to come. I was like, I just had COVID. It's not going to hurt me. Just let me be with her. And they wouldn't do it. It was the most terrifying 2 weeks of my entire life. Like, I don't think I ate one bite of food for 2 weeks. I was terrified. I felt so bad for her. And I know there's nothing I could have done. They wouldn't let me be there. But I still have guilt.
Mm.
I have a lot of guilt. And it's the most awful thing. It's awful to lose someone in that way. It's awful. And people who haven't gone through it just be like, oh, she lost her mom. Like a lot of people have lost their mom. It's different. It's different.
Yeah. So how long did you have COVID during those 2 weeks that your mom was in the hospital?
Well, like I said, because everything has changed, like how long you're supposed to quarantine and all that. In the beginning they were like, you need to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then it went down to 10 days, and now they're saying 5 days. So I don't really know, because I felt like I had a really bad cold, and then it was fine. Like, it seems like I got over it really fast. And with the being absolutely sick over worrying about her, I really can't tell you a time frame and when I got better.
Yeah.
I guess because I was sick over her, so I don't remember like an exact day. I was like, oh, I feel better today. I don't feel sick anymore because I was sick in another way. So I really don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned that you have a sister.
I have a sister and a brother. Yeah.
Oh, did either of them live locally? Did you?
No.
No.
My brother lives in Mississippi and my sister lives in California.
Oh,
And my brother and I are not really close, and my sister was calling me every day on the hour. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? Has anything gotten better? What's going on? And my brother would get updates through her. And, he was calling her to get updates, not me. But that was the farthest thing from my mind. I really didn't care
yeah.
whether I talked to him or not. But, um, so no, they were not here. But I've lived here 40 years. And I have so many friends that are family that were there, and my kids were here.
Yeah. Were you able to have a funeral for your mom right away?
We not right away. She was cremated. So we had a memorial service. It was quite a few months down the road because of COVID. But we were able to have a memorial service for her. And I have her ashes with me. They sit by my bed every day.
Yeah, I know that my mom is in my bedroom as well. I have
Yeah.
her ashes there. I just can't part with them.
No.
I don't ever foresee a time when I would ever.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no. And my sister and I have gotten closer since our mom got sick and passed away. Um, but they didn't want any of her ashes, which was odd to me. But I'm like, that's okay with me, because I'm okay having all of her with me. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Um, so I moved since she passed because I couldn't remain in the house that I shared with her. I just couldn't do it. Um, but packing up her room, that was tough. I still have everything that belonged to her. I have a storage because I refuse to get rid of any of it. I can't do it. I can't. I cannot do it. Um, and that's fine. I'll pay for storage till now till forever if it means keeping her things. And when I'm no longer here, my kids will keep it, I'm sure. So, she was like another parent to them. They were very, very close to my mom. So it's been very, very hard on them too.
Yeah.
She was very loved. Like I said, she worked at her job almost 20 years and she was very, very loved by so many people. And it's just, she got sick and passed so fast. Like it just blew my mind how quick it took over her body. Like,
Yeah, and isn't it just so crazy how you experienced one whole set of symptoms and then your mom got another? Like it
yeah.
just, yeah, went straight to her lungs, whereas you experienced more it as a cold.
Yeah, it was more in my head than anything. Like, I just was sneezing and coughing. Not really coughing, but like, I just felt like I've never had a cold this bad, and that was it. And then it's like as soon as I had the cold, it felt like it was gone. But then I don't really know when it went away because I was sick in all the other ways you could be sick from worrying, you know. So it has been a rough 2 years because I just had her 2 year on February 17th, and it does not get easier. It just doesn't. And I mean, I cry sometimes so hard I can't breathe. Do I feel like I'm living my life now? I'm trying more. Um, I don't even really want to say it gets easier. Like, it's just, what choice do you have?
Yeah.
You have to put one foot in front of the other, and it's like just one step at a time every day.
Yeah, I think the first year it's more of a fog, and the second year it becomes real,
Mhm.
like real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What things have you done for yourself to work through your anger and then
I got a really wonderful therapist. Um, she's been great. And she's like, let me know, like, am I going crazy? Or because some days I feel like I'm going crazy. Like, I was like, okay, am I supposed to not really be over it? I don't want to say that, but like, should I be farther along in my grieving process than where I'm at? Like, and she's like, there's no right or wrong way. There's no time limit. There's no rules. Like, you grieve how you grieve, and you grieve as long as you grieve. And anyone who tells you any different is not someone you need in your life, because until I'm not like trying to make it seem like if someone lost their parent in another way, that it's not traumatic for them and that it doesn't hurt, because obviously it does. I lost my dad in 2005 to heart disease, and that still hurts me too, you know. But the way my father passed in his sleep, it was peaceful for him. Thank goodness for that. But hers, the only way I can say it is she suffered.
yeah.
She suffered. Like, she did. And to lose someone in that way when it's traumatic like that it's a whole different level of grief. It's a whole different level of the whole process of like just losing someone you love that much. Like, I mean, and I can't explain it to someone who hadn't been through it. You can't. They think they know and they might have the best intentions, but they just don't know. They can't even imagine how bad it was and how bad it is, because you have those memories of like, God, I couldn't be there. I couldn't be with her. I couldn't hold her hand. I couldn't do anything. I was helpless to help her. And this woman did everything for me my whole life and protected me. And when I was sick, she'd make me feel better. And I was like, I couldn't do that for her. I couldn't do anything for her.
Yeah. Yeah, when you said that she suffered, the thought that I had was not only that, but she suffered alone,
Yes.
and you were completely helpless and not being able to do anything about that.
Yes.
And
And then,
that's
I think about, did she know that
mm,
did she, because she knew how much I loved her. She always knew that. But like, did she know I was thinking about her? Did she know that I wish I could be there? And everyone's like, of course she knew that. Of course she knew that. And I'm like, these are the scenarios that play in my head. I'm like, I have that guilt. It's not like I can ask her. So it's just these waves of guilt that come over me sometimes, and it's just it's awful. It's
yeah.
awful.
Yeah, is there anything that you have found that's helped with that, or has therapy helped with that? Have you talked to other people in the same position who also have that COVID guilt?
Well, I don't really know. I'm part of Yellow Heart Memorial on Facebook. And so there's obviously everyone's in that group for the same reason, because they lost somebody they love to COVID. So they get it. And I've expressed that, and I mean, they're like, it's all normal. It's normal. And unfortunately, other than working through it, there's nothing we can do to lighten that. It's something that I'm always going to feel like I wish I could have done more, but there was nothing I could do. I mean, absolutely nothing. And she didn't deserve to go that way. She didn't. And that'll eat at me for the rest of my life. I mean, and I just have to live with that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask about it because it's not something that I feel, but I also like I wouldn't even know what to do with all my emotion if I
Right.
had that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very, very hard. Like I said, I just slept on the cold tile floor. If I could have just been in the room with her. And I probably wouldn't have slept very much, but at least I would have been there to hold her hand. So she wasn't by herself and terrified. These scenarios play in my head, and I can't turn them off. I can't. I can't imagine her fear. I can't imagine what she went through. I can't.
Mhm.
And I it's a crippling thing
Yeah.
to have that in your brain all the time, and it's there. It lives there now.
Mhm.
And I have to just work through it every day. I mean, and that's all I can do.
Yeah. Did you talk to your mom, or were you able to talk to her every day? Did you text every day?
Well, she wasn't a texter. She wasn't big on technology. She didn't get it. Um, and we tried to show her forever, and she was just like, I don't understand. I don't know. And she wouldn't do it. Um, she called me a few times, and like I said, the one time, and I did just think it was hard for her to talk because she'd get winded because she couldn't hardly breathe. And I called her nurses 2, 3, 4 times a day, every day, the entire time she was in there. Any updates? Any updates? Anything better? What's changed? And I didn't want to call her phone because I was like, what if she's sleeping? What if she's resting? I don't want to disturb her. you know. And once they put the BiPAP on her, there was no talking to her. And it was so loud. And I have 12 voicemails saved on my phone from her. And the very last voicemail was February 4th. And all I could hear was that BiPAP in the background. That's it. Because she couldn't say anything. Maybe she was hoping I would have answered and she could just hear me. I don't know. But I have it on my phone. And that's all I can hear is the BiPAP. I don't listen to her voicemails often because it's hard. But yeah, February 4th, 2021 is the last one I have from her. And it's just the sound of the BiPAP in the background until she hung up.
Yeah. Have you saved them or emailed the voicemails to yourself just in case you get a new phone someday?
Oh yeah, yep. As a matter of fact, I upgraded my phone, and before the gentleman at T-Mobile did anything, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this if my voicemails can't be saved.
Yeah.
And my daughter was with me, and she's 25, so she said, "Mom, I'll save them to a file, and I'll email them to you. You're emailing them to yourself, so you'll always have them." I was like, "Yeah, because if that can't be done, I'm not exchanging my phone. I'm not doing it." And I have lots of videos of her, and if I want to see her smile, or I want to hear her laugh, or I want to hear her yell at me. I have voicemails where she's fussing at me, and she's getting on to me about something or other. I can listen to it, and I have that. And in 2005, when my dad passed, I never got videos of him because, cell phones weren't as advanced back then. So I don't have that. I have pictures of him. And it's like I'm forgetting what he sounded like and what his laugh sounded like. And, but with her, I have that. And I'll always have that. But nothing, I'd give anything to be able to pick up the phone, anything I needed to talk about. She was part of everything that I did everywhere I went. I couldn't even go to the grocery store for the longest time because that she was always with me when I went to the grocery store. I couldn't go to her favorite places to eat. Now on her birthday, my kids and I will go to her favorite brunch spot for her birthday because it was her favorite place to go just to celebrate her birthday, or, go to her favorite place to eat on a random night just because it's somewhere she liked to go. Or we'll cook. My mom, everybody has a love language, and hers was food. And she was Hispanic, so she loved to cook. So we'll cook meals that she made. Um, so we do a lot of things to try and remember her, but it usually ends the night with me by myself. It's emotional for me. So, I don't know. I'm very blessed that she was my mom, and that I got as many years with her as I did. Um, and no one knows her better than me, you know. And when she was in the hospital and she was scared, she called me. She had 2 other children and she didn't call them.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned you're part of the Yellow Heart Memorial. Have you submitted your mom's name to memorials that they've had in?
oh yeah, yep. I have tons of pictures on my phone. I'll screenshot them when they have her picture or her name on a heart or whatever in a certain memorial or a certain thing they did, and um, and I'll make sure I keep all that. That I have pictures of all that, and that I'm doing what I can to remember her and honor her, and you know, and I was like, hopefully she sees that. Everyone's like, she's still with you. She's still watching you, and you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're coming up on the 3-year mark where organizations like Marked by COVID and Yellow Heart Memorial, they sort of March 6th or March 13th or whatever it is, they mark that as the year, and they have these larger group memorials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you miss the most about your mom?
My mom was a very if you wanted to know the truth or if you didn't want to know the truth about something, she didn't care. You were going to get the truth no matter what. She didn't bite her tongue about anything. She was very straightforward and like she'll tell you like it is, and she didn't care whether you liked it or not. She told me what I needed to hear and not what I wanted to hear, and I didn't like it all the time, but and she had the greatest laugh. She was a smart aleck, and you know, she was the best mom in the world and the best grandmother, and if she loved you, she loved you, and she'd do anything in the whole wide world for you. And that's what a lot of people said, and she knew hard work. And I'm so proud because my daughter's got her work ethic too. And she was 75 and still working. And she wouldn't listen to us. And she couldn't sit still, And when she was a kid, her and her family worked in fields to make money. So my mom had worked since she was a kid and she knew how to work hard. So we had a wonderful role model. Like I said, she was the strongest woman I ever knew in my life. And I just miss her smile and the sound of her laugh. And oh gosh, I could just go on and on about all the things I miss about her.
Yeah, and because you two lived together, in a way, her loss changed like every single facet of your life.
It did. It sure did. And I just remember like it took me about a month to find a place and move out of the house I shared with her. And I just sat in this house. And it was because my kids stayed with me for a few days after because they didn't want me to be by myself. But I just sat in this house with her memory everywhere. And I would go into her room and I would just stand in the doorway. I remember this vividly, and I'm like, it's like she's gonna come home from work. It's like she's gonna walk through the door. Like her room was how she left it. The whole house was how she left it. I could still smell her perfume in her room, and it's just I was like, she's not coming back. She's not gonna walk through that door. She's not gonna come back. And who am I now? That was my biggest thing, and I still struggle with that sometimes. I'm like, who am I without my mom? I'm like, she was part of everything.
Yeah.
And now I'm like this whole new person without her. And it's foreign to me. Yeah. Because it's someone I've never been before. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're being so strong and we're so proud of you." I'm like, I don't know about all that, but I'm doing my best, and that's all I can do because I can't change what is.
Yeah.
I can't bring her back. And if we had the power to do that, anyone we ever left would still be here, but it's not so. And I just have to do what I can do to make her proud and honor her. And I do that very slow. It's baby steps. It's been 2 years, but that's like, it's like it's been, oh my gosh, it's been 2 whole years, but it's like it's no time at all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, you experience that. Gosh, it's a time warp, isn't it? Where you just sort of feel like in the moment. Like I feel like Christmas was 10 years ago, but I feel like my mom died yesterday.
Right. It seems like so long, but it seems like not so long. And people are like, "Oh, it's been 2 years." I'm like, 2 years is nothing when you've lost someone you love that much. It's no time at all. Um, so I don't even know how to react to that. I'm like, that's no time at all. I mean, I lost my best friend in my whole world. That's nothing. So there's certain things, and I don't think people mean it to be malicious or mean. It's just I know, especially early on, people would say things and it would just make me so angry. I was like, mm. And I just think that people don't know what else to say when someone passes away in your life. They don't know what to say. And I remember the simplest thing, like, how are you? And, that's just, they don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And that would make me so mad.
Yeah.
And I would think, how do you think I am? And I just wanted to say some not so nice things. I never did. But, and, all that comes out is I'm okay.
Yep. Yeah, because you feel at that point like they're just asking, they don't really want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the book Option B by Sheryl Sandberg, she went through that because she worked at Facebook and her husband died suddenly and she went back to work and people would say, "How are you?" And she had this part of the book that was like, don't ask people who are grieving that. Just say something like, "How are you really?" or "How are you doing today?"
Yeah.
Because it shows a little more like you're acknowledging that they're going through a hard time and you really care and want to hear how they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
My best friend, the same best friend who was in the room when my mom passed, and like I said, we've been best friends since we were very young, and we're 50 now. But her son was murdered on January 12th, her oldest son. And so now I'm going through, and I mean, this is a girl that, I mean, we know each other so well, we finish each other's sentences. I mean, we're like that close. I mean, we're not blood, but we might as well be. And now I'm going through the grieving process with her. And even though our grief is different, it's still grief. And I could say anything to this girl. And I mean, now our morning text consists of just hello. And it was like, how are you? It's how it used to be. I don't ask her that. I don't ever ask her that anymore. Because number one, I know what grief feels like, but I can't imagine. I can't.
Yeah.
And so our conversations are different now. And when I go see her, it re-sparks my grief, if that makes sense. And when I come home, it's very emotional when I come home and I'm by myself. Because it you know, makes it all fester.
Yeah.
And I never really dealt with, not that I remember anyway. I mean, my mom lost her mom, and that was hard for her. But like actively being with someone who's going through such intense grief like I was, I it's like, oh my gosh. And then this girl was there for me nonstop after my mom passed. Like morning, noon, and night. Never left me. Unless she had to go to work, of course. But other than that, she was with me. And I don't know how to react. I don't know how to give it back. And I think it's because I'm still in mine. And I don't know how to, and I feel selfish. But grief is grief. Losing someone you love is just, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And like I said, the last time I went through it was 2005 when I lost my dad. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
you're young to not have either one of your parents, you know.
Yeah, most people lose their parents when they're elderly later on, and like I said, my dad was in '05.
Yeah.
And not that it wasn't hard because I was my dad's only child. My siblings have a different father, but so I was his only child. I was very close to my dad. And but I still had my mom. So we worked through it together because they were still married when he passed. I mean, they were soulmates. I mean, they were still very much together when he passed. And then, but we had each other. But when she was gone, I didn't have either one. So that was like a double whammy for me. Cause then the from his loss got brought back up. And I was like, I remember thinking several times, I was like, I don't have parents now. And what a crazy realization that is. And it's a whole different kind of grief because I don't have either. Am I happy they're together again? Of course I am. I'm very, very happy for them. I'm not happy for me though, because now I don't have either one of them. So it's a very, it's like different griefs. Like as silly as that sounds, it's just it's different, and it's like it keeps. There's so many different kinds of grief, and I just think by February 17th, my mom had enough, and my mom had a rough life, and I think this was she was like, I'm done. I'm done. I know my kids will be okay, and that she'll be all right. And now I just want to rest. Now I'm just done. I think she was just done from the hardships in her life, and I think that she was done being sick, and she was just done. And she's like, this is my way out, and I'm taking it. I mean, for lack of better words. And I think that's why she reached for my hand. And she was basically saying, without being able to say it to me, you're going to be okay. And I'm glad you're here. And it's almost, you've heard people say that they wait for a certain someone to get there. And I mean, now, this really wasn't my mom's choice. And it was just to the point where, they weren't giving her another option besides either you're going to go on the vent or that's it. But I think she really let go at that point when she saw me. Um, and I that's something I have to believe that she, she got to make her own choice. Because if it had been up to me, I'd probably been like, oh yeah, put her on the vent.
Yeah.
Because how do you not do that? How do you say no? Absolutely not. Like you do everything you can to save them. Well, you think you're doing what you can. There was another lady at my mom's job who worked there just about as long as my mom, and she got COVID. And her children put her on the ventilator. And her organs started to fail. It was awful. And then later on her kid said, I wish we wouldn't have done that. We just wish we could have just let her go and not prolonged it, because they're like she suffered more. And now I know that's not what my mom would have wanted, was to go on the vent. I know that. And at the time I probably been like, you do whatever you can to try and save her. So I'm glad she was able to make her own choice for her life.
Yeah.
As much as I want her here, I'm glad she was able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a dignity in that.
Yeah.
My mom had, and I had to talk about that, so I knew her wishes, and she did not want any life-saving measures of any kind. So she also had a lot of morphine and Valium.
Mm-hmm. I just remember after they had given her morphine and took the BiPAP, give her morphine and then took the BiPAP off. And there's a lot of like very deep breaths, and not that. And to me, in my mind at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, it's not enough. It's not enough. I remember hitting the button. I'm like screaming for the nurses to get in there. And I'm like, you've got to give her more. You got to give her more morphine. She can't breathe, and they're like, they try to explain to me, and I can't remember what they said, but it's like she doesn't feel it. It's just her body shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, just give her more. Just give her more so she'll stop. So she could just go, And I was like, it's not gonna hurt her now. You know, excuse me. I was like, it's not gonna hurt her at this point. Just give her more. It's not like she's gonna OD. It's not gonna hurt her. Just give her as much as you can give her so this can stop. Because it went on for a long time. And it's just a lot of deep breaths. And and they were really quick. And I'm like, what is going on? And I don't remember vividly. I feel like I've blocked out a lot from that time. I just remember that I was screaming for them to come in, literally, to come give her some more. And I just know that I laid my head in her lap and I was there for hours and I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let her hand go, and she was still squeezing my hand. Even after they listened to her and confirmed that she had passed, she was still holding on to my hand. And I was like, how do you walk out of that room?
Yeah.
How could I just leave her laying there? How could I do that?
I'm glad they let you stay that whole time.
Yeah. And my best friend was like, we gotta go. We gotta go. It's time. And I don't remember walking out of there. I don't remember driving the drive home. I don't remember much from probably a few days after that.
Yeah. Well, Angee, there's one question that I ask everybody at the end of the show, and that is, what do you say to people who tell you that COVID isn't real?
Well, number one, it makes me very, very angry. And I'm like, I hope it's not going to take you losing someone you really love the way I lost someone I really love to something that you say isn't real. Because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen what it does to somebody who was once a very lively person, who was very much here. And in 2 weeks' time, she just deteriorated. It didn't even look like my mom. When I walked in that room, it did not look like her. And, it's just, I hope that's not what it takes for them to get it. Because I wouldn't want anyone to go through that, even someone who says something as ignorant as that. I wouldn't want it to take that for them to realize that it's very much real. And I knew I'd lose my mom someday. I knew it. That was, I was realistic. I knew it was going to happen, but not like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we never have enough time.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Your mom's name was Gloria?
It was. Yep.
Well, thank you for sharing her story today and taking the time to talk to me.
Well, thank you for letting me tell it.
And that's the show, everyone. This show won't ever have a members area or episodes that you have to pay to listen to, but there are expenses to hosting a podcast, and if you'd like to help, you can support this show at buymeacoffee.com/forthosewelost. The link is in the show notes below. And if you're still listening, and thank you so much if you are, if you like this episode, please share it. Share it with your friends, share it on your social media, and once you've done that, please rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts, because that's where most of our new listeners come from. Ratings and reviews are the main way this podcast finds new listeners. So please, share the show. Until next time.